Look, human beings, we can't help ourselves but compare ourselves to others. And comparison is the deadliest thing we can do to ourselves. Because we will always come up short. And all it does is exaggerate all of our insecurities. It's okay to enjoy other people's success, but you let them live their lives and you live your life. Oh, and by the way, they're curating their social media. That's not really their life. And so you're making decisions based on how you feel, based on their curated things. I know, I've talked to so many millennials. I know somebody who's out of work, really depressed, and yet she goes and does all these things so she has the appearance of this amazing, successful life. And she may be making those decisions based on what her friends, who knows what sort of weird, twisted, exaggerated, circle of depression this is forming. So go back to the rules of the infinite game. Your friends are there to admire. Your friends are there to say, God, I'm so happy for them. What are they doing that I can learn from? I'll give you an example. So we can all fall into this trap. So, in my business, authors and speakers and folks like us, we're all comparing ourselves to each other, and sometimes it can get silly and competitive. And there was, sometimes I go on Amazon and I check the rankings of my books to see that I still have a job. And now and then there was this one author who I hated for no reason. He's very smart. His work's incredibly good. He's incredibly well respected. I respect him, but I hate him. And I would check the rankings of his books. And when I was ahead, I'd be like, yes. And when he was ahead, I was like, right? It would drive me crazy. And I had this weird abstract competition. Same thing, right? Social media happened to be Amazon rankings.
Right.
And I would check in all the time. I'd always check in, mine, his, nobody else, just mine and his. Anyway, we were, I was at an event and we were interviewed together on the same stage. And the interviewer decided to let us introduce each other. So I went first. I had to introduce him. And this is what I said. I looked at him and I said, you make me very insecure. I said, because all of your strengths are all of my weaknesses. And every time I see you do well, it just reminds me what I'm bad at. That's how I opened up. He turned to me and he said, funny, I feel the same way about you. And now we love each other. Because I realized that he's really good at what I'm bad at. So by me getting to know him and really learning to love him, I'm realizing I'm getting better at those things. And I'm taking more pride in the things that I'm good at rather than thinking I have to be good at everything he's good at, right? So it's healthy to grow our own strengths and rather than be intimidated by the strengths of others. I don't think you can motivate the unmotivated. I don't think you can motivate people. People either are motivated or unmotivated. I think you can inspire people. You can motivate people with sticks and carrots, offer them bounty or threaten punishment, and you'll get behavior that you want. Is there loyalty? Is there love? Absolutely not. Usually, when people are unmotivated, it's not necessarily them. It might be the situation they're in. Maybe they don't belong in the culture. Maybe they feel unseen or unheard. Maybe they're scared. Maybe they're unprepared. So we have to, when somebody's unmotivated, let's not label them as unmotivated first. What are the 20 other things that it could also be? Let's start there. Now, are there some people in the world who are unmotivated? Absolutely. You hired them, which means you bear some responsibility if it's time to transition them, to help them find another place where they're going to be a better fit. We can't yell at them and call them stupid and unmotivated and push them out the door. We have to bear some of the responsibility. We hired them. And if we made a mistake and hired somebody who's a bad cultural fit, then we have to take care of them and help them transition to somewhere where they're going to be a better fit. If we only focus on motivating people, and that's a factor, then you're only going to get very finite thinking. An excessive amount of motivating things, like hit this number, get this bonus, you'll get a motivated employee pool that doesn't care about each other, might stab each other in the back, and eventually will take a better job somewhere else. We have to inspire people. We have to give them that sense of cause and vision that their work is worth more. We have to make them feel like they matter and feel like they're seen and heard and understood. And what ends up happening is those people are not only more motivated and inspired, but if they're offered a better, higher paying job somewhere else, they turn it down. Because it's not just about the bonuses and the money. It's because they would rather be here with these wonderful people. We, like many, made most of our money from in-person and live events and workshops, and of course that instantaneously disappeared. And so we, like many, were forced to pivot. And we took advantage of online learning, but we wanted to do it consistent with our own values. We did live classes because we wanted to retain some sort of human connection as opposed to just on-demand classes. We called up people who we knew, whose work we admired, and we said, "You're struggling too. Why don't you come and share your genius on our platform?" And it became a very cooperative thing. But there's a few tactics that I learned to get from A to B that were really helpful that I never would have done if I didn't have that extreme pressure. So one of the things we did is we shared with the team the vision, which we had, and then we said to the whole team, we can't do this alone. This is literally a team effort. And so what I want 15 ideas from each person in the next 48 hours about how we can deliver on that vision. And the team freaked out. 15 ideas in 48 hours? And if they wanted to work in teams, I was fine with that. And the reason for that is the pressure, if I gave them 3 weeks, well, they would have all done the work the 48 hours before anyway. So that was academic. But the important thing was the reason for 15 ideas is because if I only asked for 2 or 3 or 3 or 4, those would be the same ideas I came up with. And it's the ideas that 11, 12, and 13 that were the brilliant ones. And when we came together to report out, we did it in sort of a unique way. I sort of gave this little speech where I said, okay, this is not a competition. This is about contribution. If one person has 6 amazing ideas and you have none, instead of being angry, say thank you, because they just saved your job because they had a great idea. Also, what I learned is that there's a difference between somebody who has an idea and somebody who's good at executing an idea. And the reality is the most creative people in the team that could come up with the ideas weren't the best at executing them. And the ones that didn't have that many ideas, they were great at executing ideas. So it became really interesting to see who were my creators and who were my executors from that one meeting. And we played Boggle rules. If you've ever played the game Boggle, if somebody else has your word, you just skip over it and move on. I said, if somebody says your idea, don't bother saying, well, I had that idea too. I'm not keeping score, I don't care. Simply move on and tell me something else on your list. And we only let people report out 2 or 3 ideas at a time. That way we could sort of get a flavor. And what ended up happening was people would build on the ideas that they heard. And the set of ideas that we had at the end became our ideas. Nobody could claim them anymore because we'd all sort of tinkered with them. And then we broke them into 3 buckets: green, yellow, and red. A green idea was an idea we could execute with the money we had, and we could execute it within the week. A yellow idea was an idea that needed a little more resource, probably take a week to a month. And a red idea, no matter how good it was too expensive or take too long, and we just parked it and said, we'll deal with those one day. And we just took all our green ideas and executed them.